Why Chelsea's transfer window is the worst one yet. In today's video, we'll discuss why Chelsea's transfer window has been one of the worst. First and foremost, it's important to note that Chelsea has always been known for their big money signings and high-profile transfers. However, this transfer window has been quite the opposite for the Blues. Despite having a transfer ban lifted, the club has yet to make a significant signing. One of Chelsea's biggest issues is their lack of a clear strategy. The club has been linked to several players, but it seems they haven't been able to close any deals. This has led to frustration among fans who are expecting big-name signings to bolster the squad. Another issue for Chelsea has been their inability to offload players. The club has several players on high wages who are no longer in the first-team plans, but they haven't been able to find suitable buyers for them. This has led to a clogged squad and a lack of funds to make new signings. Lastly, Chelsea has also been hit with several injuries to key players. The club has been without N'Golo Kante, Christian Pulisic and Tammy Abraham for extended periods, which has hindered their performance on the pitch. Chelsea is one of the most financially powerful clubs in the Premier League, but they've made some questionable signings in recent seasons. The Blues overspent on players under the reign of Roman Abramovich, and current owner Todd Boehly has already spent more than £300 million on players. Boehly went on a spending binge, yet despite his efforts, Chelsea has had a terrible season, ranking 10th in the Premier League. The new Chelsea players have also been the target of many snarky comments. Kalidou Koulibaly hasn't been the same player since leaving Napoli, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang may quit the club after just 6 months. We decided to look back at some of Chelsea's worst acquisitions in light of their track record of disastrous deals. The teams that spent the most money in the window added 2 more players on the last day of the window. The most important thing was getting a striker and a midfielder. They got Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang from Barcelona for £10.4 million and sent left-back Marcos Alonso to Barcelona in exchange. The team tried hard for several hours to get Edson Alvarez to fill the midfield spot, but Ajax blocked it because they didn't have time to find a replacement. With time running out, Chelsea got Denis Zakaria on loan for a season with an option to buy him for £30 million next year. Also, efforts to sign RB Leipzig defender Josko Gvardiol, who signed a new deal today, will start up again in January. Billy Gilmour, a Scottish midfielder, joined Brighton for £9 million, and young players Ethan Ampadu, Harvey Vale and Xavier Simons agreed to move on loan. There was talk that Michy Batshuayi might move to Nottingham Forest at the last minute. The board can't be blamed for not supporting coach Thomas Tuchel. Including all the extras, the club has spent a record £273 million. Antonio Rudiger, Andreas Christensen and Alonso have been replaced by Wesley Fofana, Kalidou Koulibaly and Marc Cucurella, who will cost up to £165.5 million. Raheem Sterling is off to a good start after moving to Chelsea for £47.5 million from Manchester City. He's already scored 3 goals, but Chelsea's offence still seems to depend a lot on Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who's 33. Chelsea has lost 2 of their last 3 games, so they need Aubameyang to help them score goals. In the club's strategic report, it says that the loss of revenue was caused by the fact that most of the 2020-21 games will be played behind closed doors, as well as by the fact that the club will make less money from selling players and spend more money on player amortization. Even though the club's overall income went up from £387.8 million or $523 million to £416.8 million or $562 million because more games were shown on TV, matchday income dropped from £46 million or $62 million to just £7.2 million or $9.7 million because fans stopped going to Stamford Bridge. With the purchase of Mykhailo Mudryk, Chelsea has already spent more than £400 million on players this season, with 2 weeks left in the transfer window. According to Transfermarkt, they spent a total of €143.5 million, £126.8 million on 5 new players in January. They're trying to improve their play, which has put them in 10th place in the Premier League. This comes after they spent a Premier League record £270 million on players over the summer, the second highest amount any club in the world spent on players over the summer of 2019 after Real Madrid's £292 million. So, how can they keep spending? And how do the numbers work with the financial fair play rules? BBC Sport looks more closely at the numbers. First, what are the spending rules? Chelsea has to follow 2 sets of rules. The Premier League's rules about making money and staying in business, and UEFA's financial fair play rules since they often play in European competitions, FFP. Profitability and sustainability rules for the Premier League allow teams to lose a total of £105 million over 3 years. Any club that loses more than that amount could be punished with fines or even a loss of points. Under the current rules of UEFA, clubs can spend up to €5 million, £4.4 million more than they earn over 3 years. They can spend up to €30 million, £26.6 million more than this if the club's owner pays for it all. UEFA has a long list of potential penalties for clubs that violate these rules, such as the Wolves in 2020. These punishments include warnings, fines, and even the loss of European titles. But new UEFA rules that went into effect in June limit club spending on salaries, transfers, and agents' fees to 70% of their income. However, the amount of money they can lose over 3 years has gone up to €60 million, £49.96 million. Clubs have 3 years to put these changes into effect. Kieran Maguire, a football finance expert, thinks that Chelsea only had a 3-year FFP loss of £5 million in their most recent accounts, which go up to 2021. This means they have a lot of room when it comes to allowed losses. How can Chelsea continue to spend so much? There are 2 things to consider. Can they afford it financially? They can do this because they buy players and pay for them over time, so the club's finances are in good shape. In terms of financial fair play, the accounting is more Harry Potter than Graham Potter because it's weird and wonderful. When you buy a player, you spread the player's cost over the contract's length. If we look at Mykhailo Mudryk, they paid £89 million for him and gave him a contract for 8.5 years. When you sell a player, you get all the money right away, even if the money is paid out in installments. Tammy Abraham and Fikayo Tomori are selling well. That was a profit of £77 million. They also won the Champions League, the UEFA Super Cup, and the FIFA World Club Cup, which brought in more money. So, I don't think things are as bad as some people say. What dangers are there? It's a strategy with a lot of risks. If the players don't perform well, you're stuck paying them £7 or £8 million a year for the next 7 to 8 years. No other club will give you that salary for such a long time. So you have 4 or 5 players who are happy to sit for the rest of their contracts. As far as UEFA is concerned, they are even taking up space on your 25-person roster or your payroll. If they're great players, this is great because if Real Madrid comes calling in 2 years, you still have 5 or 6 years left on the contract and can get the most money for them. What will happen if Chelsea doesn't get into the Champions League? It would make things complicated. If Chelsea won the Champions League in 2021, they'd have won around €120 million, £106 million. You could make between £3 million and £4 million per home game, plus bonuses from sponsors. Compare this to the Europa League. For every £1 you make in that competition, you make about £4.50 in the Champions League. If you don't qualify, that'll also have a significant effect. The transfer market is getting bigger and looks like it'll continue. Even a club like Chelsea can only buy some of the players they want with that money. Instead, Chelsea will have to get smarter if they're going to compete in transfers with teams like Manchester City. With players like Edouard Mendy, the Blues have shown signs that they can do this, but they still have a long way to go. Chelsea's transfer window has been one of the worst yet. The club has struggled with a clear strategy and an ability to offload players, and several injuries to key players. It remains to be seen whether the club can turn things around before the window closes. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.